Well, Senator Engel, thank you so much for doing the interview. So now, currently there are these bills being pushed by Republicans in the Arizona state legislature, and they're attacking this clean energy standard set by utility regulators at the Arizona Corporation Commission. Now, on the Climate Pod, we care a great deal about renewable energy standards because this is one of the most effective policy tools that anyone has to actually make meaningful change. So let's step back here before we start talking about what concerns you about the bill. Let's step back here and just talk about how did this renewable energy standard get adopted in Arizona?
Well, first of all, just to know, thank you for having me, and I'm just so glad you're paying attention to this important issue that's going on here in Arizona. The land of where we've had wildfires and record-setting temperatures. So, focusing on this is just really important right now in our state. So these standards were the first time that there's actually been a revision of standards that Arizona set in 2006. So
Right.
we have some of the lowest renewable standards of our region. And so it's been, a high priority of clean energy advocates and climate activists and the business community that we would actually revise and strengthen these standards. And finally, the Arizona Corporation Commission, with a bipartisan vote on the commission, voted to go forward with a rulemaking to have 100% clean energy by 2050. It was a compromise, but it has some benchmarks along the way, and it's a real important step forward here.
So what is happening now with these bills that has you concerned?
Well, that's all going on. We're all celebrating that. It's, everybody is even the state's largest utility, Arizona Public Service Company, actually supported the rules. So it was kind of, maybe not quite kumbaya, but definitely a bipartisan moment that we were going forward with supporting clean energy. And then, seemingly almost out of nowhere, the Arizona legislature, the chairs of the Natural Resources committees in both houses of the legislature have introduced bills to take away the authority of the Corporation Commission to pass this clean energy standard. And it's very clearly aimed at that standard because it has a retroactive date to a Supreme Court decision that was really based on another matter, but said in the decision, talked about the legislature having some permissive authority, having some authority in this area as well as the Corporation Commission.
So why is this happening?
Well, I'm not sure we entirely know. My best guess is there certainly were some interests that were opposed to what the Corporation Commission was doing, and I can only guess, and this is a dynamic that unfortunately does happen here in Arizona. We've seen it before. They lose in one branch of government and they run to another branch of government in order to undo that. So that's the only thing really we can see. It was a very interesting committee hearing yesterday. We had almost 5 hours on this in the Senate. The day before, we had several hour hearing in the House. And while the commission did, on a divided vote, sign in to appear neutral before the legislature, we had both a commissioner who was in favor of the rules and a commissioner who was against the rule testify in committee. So it is somewhat interesting. I mean, if anybody would have time to listen to the hearing yesterday, it was kind of incredible, the testimony in terms of how good a thing this was for our state, both in terms of jobs, in terms of encouraging investment in clean energy. I mean, Arizona is, the sunniest place in the universe. Former Governor Napolitano said we could be the Persian Gulf of solar if we wanted to. And so to have this legislature jumping in really to undermine and create a lot of just uncertainty for investors in our state as well as those who really, like myself, would really like to see us addressing climate change. It's just been a terrific disappointment. So we are working hard to oppose it.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that opposition, because I think for listeners both in Arizona and outside of Arizona, they're going to wonder, well, what's the balance of power in the state legislature? Like, in your assessment, do Republicans have the votes to actually stop this standard?
We don't know yet, and that's a great question, and I think that will be the deciding factor. We really did try to demonstrate and show how harmful this would be by showing really the benefits of the 2006 standards. A series has done a net benefit analysis of the billions of dollars of net benefits we've had in terms of lower healthcare costs, in terms of jobs, in terms of infrastructure being built. And so it's really been a net gain for Arizona. And there's now a report by a market leader, Strategen, market research analyst, that finds that the new standard, once it goes through and becomes actually a final rule, will also have billions of dollars in net benefits for Arizona. So we're trying to get that information out. As you may know, both the House and the Senate here in Arizona is very closely divided. There's just a one-member majority in both houses. And so I'm hoping that colleagues across the aisle do actually really pay attention to this debate and see what an incredible opportunity we'd be missing if we passed a bill like this.
Well, one of the reasons that I'm paying such close attention to this, and I think so many people around the country are going to pay such close attention to this, is because Arizona is a swing state, and that what happens to a renewable energy standard in a state like Arizona could really foretell what could happen in other states which have not adopted that standard. If you're speaking to people who are interested, why do you think this matters? Beyond just the benefits you mentioned, which is health, jobs, the economy, infrastructure, all of that. What do you think is the bigger picture here?
Well, I think you put your finger on it. Arizona, I think, really is a bellwether state on many factors. Very narrowly, it did vote for Biden. Biden has made a very important, shown the importance of acting on climate change by getting us back into the Paris Accord and having a real clean energy emphasis. And we also now have, two of our senators are now Democrats, and yet we down ballot, we still do have a majority for the Republicans. So I think it will be a kind of meeting of these issues of will the things that are really convincing people to vote for Biden, to vote for Mark Kelly and Kirsten Sinema, who have made climate and clean energy investments important. Will that message also ring true for the state legislature and some of these down ballot, more local interests? So I think that is very important, as well as just the viability of renewable energy standards and efficiency standards, which we've seen bring so many benefits across the country. If we can't make the argument here, I'm concerned about our ability to make it other places, because it really has been such a win-win situation for us here.
So what happens now?
Well, at this point, it did pass out unfortunately on party lines in both the House and the Senate. And the next formal step would be to be heard before the entire body in both the House and the Senate. And if it's passed, it would then go to the governor. I'm hoping that especially our business leaders, many of whom actually have registered their opposition, and many of whom I know are having, conversations, behind closed doors. I hope that they step up and really show that, this is not the future for Arizona to undo these kind of investments and to say no. And so I'm hoping that they, make sure that Arizona, maybe that the bill doesn't come up for a vote. That would be nice.
Yeah, that'd be really nice.
We will see, though.
There was some scrutiny around the timing of these bills, especially being, I believe, if I could be wrong, but they were introduced around the time of the inauguration. Do you think that the timing of these bills have impacted the awareness on them at all?
That's an interesting question. I'm not sure. That the issues of the inauguration, this has been a very unusual legislative session, to say the least. We do seem to be now starting to work a little bit more normally, but things have been kind of delayed, and we're still picking up the pieces from last year. So to the extent that this is a very important bill that has a lot of big implications to basically preempt the authority of the Corporation Commission that has been acting in this sphere for health and safety. When we had, record temperatures